Hey there, 6th grade. So in the last video, if you'll recall, we talked about how to estimate the product of fractions and whole numbers, and in this video I want to talk about how to find the exact answers for multiplying fractions times whole numbers, and we're going to do this a couple of different ways. And the first way we're going to do it is by using repeated addition. I want you to remember that multiplication is just a shorter way to write repeated addition. So way back when you first learned how to multiply numbers together, you hopefully learned that, for example, 3 times 4 really just means 3 added to itself 4 times. 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 is 12, which is why 3 times 4 is 12. You could also interpret that as 4 added to itself 3 times. 4 plus 4 plus 4 is 12. So this essentially is what multiplication means, okay? A number added to itself a certain number of times. The same thing is true when we take whole numbers times fractions. So for instance, if we had 1/4 times 3 down here, that would mean the same thing as 1/4 added to itself 3 different times. 1/4 plus 1/4 plus 1/4. Well, you already know how to add fractions. Okay, we know for fractions we need to have common denominators. And so if you're adding 1/4 plus itself 3 times, we know it already has a common denominator of 4. So 1/4 plus 1/4 plus 1/4 would be the same as having 3/4. Add your numerators, 1 plus 1 plus 1 all over 4. That gives you 3/4. Okay, so we can say that 1/4 times 3 is really just 3/4 by using repeated addition. The same is true for 5 times 2/3. 5 times 2/3 really just means the fraction 2/3 added to itself 5 times. So 2/3 plus 2/3 plus 2/3 plus 2/3 plus 2/3. Okay, well, when you add 2/3 to itself 5 times, you get 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 all over 3, which is just 10/3. 10/3 is an improper fraction, and so to make it a mixed number, we know we have to divide the numerator by the denominator. So 3 goes into 10 3 whole times. And when you multiply there, you're left with a remainder of 1. So this would be the same as 3 and 1/3. So 5 times 2/3, we could say, is 3 and 1/3. So that's the first way that we're going to solve each of these multiplication problems with fractions, is we're just going to turn the problems into repeated addition problems. So let's look at here at number 1. And we have the problem 3 times 1/5. Well, again, 3 times 1/5 just means the fraction 1/5 added to itself 3 times. So 1/5 plus 1/5 plus 1/5, which is going to be my denominator 5 and my numerator 1 plus 1 plus 1, and that's going to give me 3/5. So 3 times 1/5 is really just 3/5. For this next one, 2/3 times 6, this just means 2/3 added to itself 6 times. So 2/3 plus 2/3 plus 2/3, and then do that again, plus 2/3 plus 2/3 plus 2/3. So my denominator is 3. On the top I have 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2, which gives me a 12 on the top. So I have 12 over 3, improper fraction, so we're going to make that a mixed number, and 12/3 actually becomes a whole number because 3 actually goes into 12 an even number of times, in this case 4. So 12 over 3 is just the whole number 4, which means 2/3 times 6 is just equal to 4. So that's one way of showing how to multiply a fraction times a whole number is by using repeated addition. The next way we're going to look at is by multiplying using what we call geometric models, or sometimes we refer to these as number tiles. And so we're going to use that now in the next few examples to represent this fraction times a whole number multiplication. So if I had the problem 1/3 times 2, I'm going to start off by looking at my whole number 2, and I'm going to draw 2 whole units using what I call number tiles, and that just means I'm going to draw 2 squares to represent my 2 wholes. So there's one whole, and there's a second whole, okay, to represent this number 2. I'm now going to take these 2 squares, and I'm going to divide each of those squares into thirds, because my fraction here has a denominator of 3. So that would look like this, dividing each of these squares up into thirds. And now, because my numerator is 1, I'm going to shade 1/3 of each of these squares. So that would be one piece here and one piece here. And so now I'm going to look and see how much do I have shaded. Okay, well, I have this small piece right here shaded. And then I have another small piece identical to it shaded. Each of these shaded pieces is 1/3. So I have 1/3 here, and 1/3 here, and 1/3 plus another 1/3 we know is 2/3. So I have 2/3 total of my 2 squares shaded, and that would be the answer to this multiplication problem. 1/3 times 2 is in fact 2/3. Okay, so let's go ahead and try that with some examples down below. For this one I have 4 times 1/4, so I'm going to start out with my whole number 4, and I'm going to draw 4 squares. So there's 1, 2, 3, and 4. My fraction is 1/4, so again I'm looking at my denominator and I'm dividing each of these squares into fourths. And you don't have to be an artist with these, but try to draw them as neat as you can. In fact, if we do this during class, we'll be using grid paper. That way we can have, hopefully, some nice even boxes to work with. So I have 4 whole squares now, each divided into fourths. And now my fraction is 1/4. I'm going to shade 1/4 of each of these boxes. So there's 1, another, another, and another. Okay, so I have 4 of these identical 1/4 pieces shaded. There's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, again, we've shaded 4 1/4 pieces, and so this would be like having 1/4 plus 1/4 plus 1/4 plus 1/4, which is 4/4, which if you put all these together, that would actually make 1 whole. So my answer for this one, 4 times 1/4, is just simply 1. Okay, number 4. I have 5 times 4/5, so my whole number is 5. I'm going to make 5 wholes. And then divide each of those into fifths, because my fraction has a denominator of 5. So there's 1 piece, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Our fraction is 4/5, so we're actually going to shade 4 out of 5 of those pieces in each square. So there's 4 pieces there. There's another 4/5. Another 4/5. Another. And another. Okay, so now let's think about how many pieces do I actually have shaded. So all these pieces here in red represent 1/5, and each of them is shaded. And we know if we put 5 of these 1/5 pieces together and finish an entire column, we would have 1 whole. So let's take some of these pieces over here on the far right, okay, and let's start filling them in here on this bottom row and try to make some whole pieces. So if I took, let's say, this piece up here away, this 1/5 piece right here, and moved it down here to the bottom, that would give me one whole piece right here. If I did the same thing with this 1/5 piece, if I just took it and I slid it to the bottom of this row, put it right here, that would give me another hole. So I've got one hole here, I've got another hole here. I could do the same thing with this piece. I could slide it to the bottom here and give myself another hole. And then I could do the same thing with this piece right here. I could just slide it down to the bottom here and give myself another hole. So now, if you'll look, I have 5/5 or one hole plus another hole plus another plus another, 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1, or 4. And so that would be my answer for this multiplication problem. 5 times 4/5 is in fact equal to 4. Okay, for my last multiplication problem, I have 2/5 times 6. So since my whole number is 6, I'm going to draw 6 holes. There's 3, 4, 5, and 6, and I'm going to do my best to divide these into fifths. So let's see. There's 1/5, 2/5, 3/5, 4/5, and 5/5. Okay. Each of these whole pieces, I'm going to shade 2/5 of these whole pieces. So there's 2/5. There's 2/5, 2/5, 2/5, 2/5, and 2/5. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing I did in the last problem. I'm going to think about removing pieces from one end, from one square, removing the 1/5 pieces and putting them in the unfilled rows in another square so I can start building whole squares. Okay, so watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to start by taking this upper right piece right here, this 1/5 piece, and I'm just going to move it in the middle here on this first piece, so that piece moves there. So now I have 3/5 of this first square shaded. I'll do another similar process right here. I'll take away this 1/5 piece and I'll move it right here. I can take away this 1/5 piece here and move it down here. So now I have one hole. I can take away this 1/5 piece, move it here. I can take away this 1/5 piece and move it right here. And I can take away this 1/5 piece and move it right here. So now I have a second whole piece. And I don't have enough 1/5 pieces to make any other holes, so what I'm left over with here is 1/5 plus 1/5 is another 2/5. So I have 1 plus 1, which is 2, plus 2/5 would be the mixed number 2 and 2/5. So that would be my answer to this multiplication problem. 2/5 times 6 is just 2 and 2/5. Alright, if you have questions over this video, be sure to ask them the next time I see you in class. And until then, have a nice day. You are all wonderful people. Take care.